Welcome to the Inspection Empire Builder podcast. On today's episode, we're talking about what are you going to do with all that money? Financial investing at its best. And welcome to the show. I'm so glad you tuned in today. On today's episode, I have Zach Lopez with me, and we're talking about financial planning and what to do with all that money we're making in the home inspections. I don't know. That's that much money. But anyhow, Zach, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt.
So, Zach, I know that you're, I think you live in Texas. Is that right?
Yep. I live
in
Texas.
What part of Texas you live in?
It's a suburb of Houston. It's called Leak City. So if you look at a map of Texas, you put your finger on Houston, you put your finger on Galveston, and you draw a straight line about halfway between there.
Nice. All right. So you're pretty close to the beach. Yeah, that's
pretty close to the at least the original IEB headquarters, which was in Friendswood.
That's right.
I was born and raised in Friendswood, and that's how the geographical proximity to IEB is how I originally got familiar with the group and introduced to them. And it ended up, even after getting married and starting a family, starting a business, staying somewhat close by. I've got family here. My in-laws and my parents live within 10 minutes of me. So it's kind of a natural place to settle down.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. And now you are a financial planner and beyond. What little I know, it's funny how people think of financial planning as like, give this guy money, he puts it in the stock market for me, right? Or buys insurance, or there's just a handful of like kind of basic products that people think of when they think of financial planning. But I know you do a lot more than that. But how'd you get into that?
Yeah, well, real quick on something you just said there. It's funny because consumers tend to have a very specific idea in mind when they hear financial advisor, they hear financial planners. Like you said, they just think of insurance or investments. Usually it's investments. Sometimes it's insurance. Whereas a seasoned financial planner, one who's been around for a while, if I meet another financial advisor or another financial planner, they tell me, I'm a financial advisor. But that means nothing to me. I have no idea what that person does unless they tell me the company they work for or a little bit more about their certifications and background and day to day. It's not hard to legally be able to call yourself a financial advisor. So that leads to a large degree of variability in what we all do and how we help clients, which has led to a lot of misunderstandings. But anyway, to answer your question, I graduated from Texas A&M in 2019 with a degree in economics. I always liked money. I always liked the stock market. I opened my first brokerage account. I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And my dad had to open it with me, but I, not when I was 8, but when I was old enough.
Were you you were the actual E-Trade baby, right? On the commercial? That was you.
Yeah. That's funny. But when I was old enough to work, I would actually cut like physical checks. It was like $200 a month. I'd write checks in my checkbook and send them to the broker, and he would put him in my brokerage account. And wow. So I've always been really interested in, a little bit too interested in money, a little bit too fascinated in money and with the stock market. And was at a few places after graduation that weren't the right fit. I have a really good friend who was a very successful financial advisor before he sold his practice in 2019. He's a good bit older than me, but we've stayed close here for about 10 years. And he knew I wasn't satisfied with the place I was. And he told me, hey, I think you'd be really good at this. You should give it a try. The guy I sold my practice to is hiring new advisors. And so I can get you an interview. And took him up on it. I've hit it off with the owner of that practice. It was a franchise of Ameriprise Financial, also down here in the Clear Lake area. And I was there for about 3 years. I saw some opportunities to do things differently. That required independence there. That required starting my own practice. It's not something I could spin off at a Edward Jones or an Ameriprise,
right? Because they have a lot of restrictions. Like this is your lane. You stick to this.
Yeah.
Right.
That's exactly right. And so I needed the freedom, the independence gives you to create my vision. And that's what I did. My last day at that practice was August 15th, 2023. And I've been, just owner operator, solo financial planner for just over 2 years now.
Right. But sometimes like pausing as a business owner from the fury and the fray of the daily, just like stuff that's going so fast, to just stop for a minute and be like, am I really making the best decisions long-term financially for my family? Sometimes it's hard for us to do. And even because the demands of the business can be really high, and like this year specifically, I'm pretty open about this stuff, but this year specifically, we hired a couple more people, and to hire those people and then get a couple vehicles and because I do fleet vehicles, and then I've got tools and equipment, supplies and training and whatever else. I spent over $150,000 on getting 2 new guys trained, onboarded, equipped, and ready to go out in the field. And I know that if I spend $150,000, I know exactly what my return is going to be and when it's going to be, because I know my business really well now. I know the numbers really well now, that I'm like, if I have an extra 150,000 laying around, where am I going to put it? Well, I'm going to bet on me. I'm going to bet on what I can do. Absolutely. And I'm good at what I do. Right. And so as is most business owners are like, yeah, I'm good at what I do. And so I'm going to bet on me versus like, well, I could send my money over to go into an ETF or some sort of stock fund or this market, or what else am I going to do with this money that's kind of starting to accumulate? I could pay myself and like put it into my own pockets for something, but ultimately it's like, no, I'm going to, I don't need to make that. I know how much money I need to make to live. So I'm going to reinvest profits right back into the business, because that seems like the best investment. And so from my perspective, I'm so guilty of this that like I have a lot of my eggs in one basket, which is my business, because I know that basket really well. And it's a good basket. There's nothing wrong with that basket. But I find myself like, yeah, right. It's a great basket. There's nothing wrong with it, but they're all in one. And there is a point where you got to go, wait a minute. Maybe I should have other baskets out here to be able to put this money into, so that my family, my kids, and extended term in life I'm going to provide for them long term, not just for the next meal. Yeah. I think that's where you come in. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say, so I'd go back to what you were saying at the beginning, where a lot of business owners don't, they've got so much going on, they really stop to think about whether or not they're making the right decisions. And I see this ultimately as what my job is as a planner. So I tell my clients to think about their financial life as a journey on a ship. They're trying to get from point A to point B. They don't really know where point B is, or it's constantly changing. Maybe it's a little bit fuzzy, and they don't have any sailing experience. Maybe they've read some books about sailing, and they've got some friends that they think are good at sailing, and they'll talk to you about that. But for the most part, they're sailing blind. And within this analogy, I'm the captain of the ship, right? So ultimately what I am is a delegate, and business owners understand the importance of delegation. You should not be doing everything in your business. You're good. Right. You're really good at select few tasks, and everything else you need to hyper focus and specialize on those and delegate everything else out. So is educating yourself on the nuances of the tax code, or what is and isn't a good investment, and or the different types of investment vehicles out there, is educating yourself about the basics of estate planning and the nuances that exist in your specific geographical area, about all of those things. Is that really the best use of your time, or is that maybe something you should hire out to have somebody take all of those things off of your plate and be that part of your brain for you? So ultimately, that's what I'm telling client. You're paying for my brain. You're paying for my knowledge, my information. It's my job to know a lot of things that you don't know that you don't know, to bring those things to attention, to organize relevant information across all of those topics, and to communicate that to you. And then most importantly, to take action on those things. So, man,
that is like so much like a home inspector. So And with IUB, it's right. Like you're paying me for my knowledge and expertise to go out and look at every system in detail of the house and give you a report and say, this is the actionable things you need to be doing because we're experts in this field. Yeah. And so I think it's probably real easy for a home inspector to go, yeah, I'm an expert in this field. Obviously people should hire me because of what's in my brain and what I know about this industry. I would think it'd be an easy transition for a home inspector to be like, obviously I'm going to hire Zach to run finances because like he knows that really, really, really well. Just like I know my lane really, really well. And yeah, man, I mean, I'm with you. I have a bookkeeper that does my books because exactly, I have a CPA that files my taxes. You hire people to do things because like, I don't know how to build a website. I hire a website guy to build my website because that's not the best and highest use of my time. And this is the same thing, man. Like I figured out how to make some money on my inspection thing, but like, yeah, hiring someone like you to come in and be like, bro, like, here's the best way to do this thing. Mm-hmm. That makes sense, man. It just makes sense.
But yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, and I've got the people I tend to work the best with are definitely business owners, retired, but it's the same thing. You've got things that are really important to you, but it's the same concept. The idea is if somebody has to be making these decisions, and if it's you, that's a whole lot of time. It's emotional and mental energy that should be focused on your business, should be focused on your family. And so that's ultimately what my value proposition is I want to take all these things off of your plate that have to get addressed, whether it's about investments or insurance or taxes or estate planning or planning for, or asset protection, all types of things that people struggle with and think about. I want to take those things off of your plate so you can reinvest that into your business or into your family.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's asset protection, man. I tell you what, as a business owner, like that's something that's always on my mind, right?
Yeah.
I worked really hard to build up what I've got, and I'm one lawsuit away from a potential problem, right? So you always have to set yourself up to be like, okay, I got to have the right insurance for the business, and then personal policies, right? Mm-hmm. I have an umbrella policy for myself personally. Yeah, we have an umbrella policy for the business. We also have other policies in place to help with alleviate some of that. But what other things on the financial planning side do you see that can help like alleviate some of that concern or some of that asset protection?
Yeah, insurance is a big one, and proper entity selection. So you want to make sure that if you're keeping lots of assets in your business, you of course have an LLC. A lot of business owners that, or at least an LLC, which are by far the most flexible entity, but sometimes having outright C corps or S corps can be appropriate. But a lot of business owners I work with will have multiple businesses, or they might have commonly they'll have rental properties in addition to their business. And rental properties, they have separate LLCs for each one. Is that what is most appropriate in your case to have a separate LLC and for each property? And then of course making sure that this isn't as much my responsibility for putting this into action as much as it is to provide education. But are you piercing the corporate veil? Are you keeping things separate?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, proper entity selection and insurance. That's kind of the basics of any asset protection plan. So you're given like tax planning. I'll sometimes have to remind people, never my clients. I try and stay away from people who have this type of interpretation of tax planning. But tax planning is not tax fraud, right? It's like,
oh God, yeah, no, yeah.
But anyway, what I was saying is a lot of it is a lot of what I'm doing is optimizing. So you've got a set of cards, and something like tax planning or asset protection or just financial planning is how do we play the best hand, or how do we play your hand in the best way that we possibly can. Taxes are just a part of life. You're going to pay taxes. It's my job to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to minimize your lifetime tax bill. Not to make it zero, because that would probably involve doing some illegal things.
Somebody's going to jail. Right. Yeah.
Right. So are you maximizing your qualified business income deduction? Do you have a 401k set up for the business, or rarely, I can't imagine a circumstance where a home inspector would want a cash balance pension plan, but other types of employer retirement vehicles that are available to defer taxable income contributions are really, really low hanging fruit for business owners that,
can you explain the basics of what's a backdoor Roth IRA contribution?
Yeah, I'm curious first. Have you heard of it?
I've heard people say the words, but I don't actually understand it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I always have, when I first start explaining this to people, I always have a little joke I'll make when I'm like, look, I don't come up with the names for these things because I understand backdoor Roth. Like, that sounds super fake. Right? It's like,
that can be understood different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. But yeah, the idea is, and oftentimes I'll bring this up and I'll get interrupted. People say, no, I make too much money to contribute to a Roth IRA. And I say, no, you don't. That's a myth. Nobody makes too much money well, if we're going to be technical with the language, then yes, you can make too much money to contribute to a Roth IRA. But a backdoor Roth IRA is basically, it's a 100% legitimate way that anybody, regardless of income, can make a contribution to a Roth IRA. I say regardless of income, you have to have earned income, but regardless of being above the tax threshold for making an ordinary Roth IRA contribution. I have clients that make millions of dollars a year, and I still do this for them and their spouses every single year, and we'll continue to do it. But the mechanics of it, you have to understand the difference between a IRA contribution and a Roth IRA conversion. In both cases, because the IRS definition is different for these two transactions, but in both cases, the destination of the funds is a Roth IRA. With a contribution, it's the source of the funds that differentiates the two. So with a contribution, the source of the funds is a non-qualified account, like your bank account or a brokerage account. It's cash, et cetera, et cetera. But a conversion is sourced from a pre-tax retirement account, like a pre-tax IRA, a traditional IRA, 401k are the most common sources for Roth conversions. There are no income limitations for Roth conversions. You can convert $1 million a year. You could make $1 million a year. You probably should not convert $1 million a year. But because there's no income limitations on a conversion, the mechanics of a backdoor Roth contribution is I'm going to make a contribution to a traditional IRA, which I'm always allowed to do regardless of income. I'm not always allowed to deduct it, but we're not going to. I'm not going to get into the complexities there, but I make a contribution to my traditional IRA, which I can always do regardless of my income, and then I just convert that to Roth. Okay. Is a 100% allowable thing. Now, you have to be careful when you do this for a few reasons. One, you don't want to be subject to something that's called the pro rata rule, which basically says if you already have a pre-tax and established funded traditional IRA, and you try and do this, you're going to create some big tax headaches that you don't want to mess with. You want to zero out that traditional IRA by either rolling it over into a 401k, which is what I'll do for my clients most commonly, or converting everything to Roth, which if it's a low balance could be a good idea. But
nice.
If you forget either of those things, if you accidentally expose yourself to the pro rata rule, not that it can't be cleaned up, it's just frustrating. And as we were talking about earlier, you've got better things to do with your time. So anyway, that's a really applicable example where I've got people who they have extra cash. The extra 14 to 16,000, depending on their age, is not that, it's not that much to them. They might as well sweep it into Roth IRAs while they have the earned income. All that growth is going to be tax free for them, for their heirs. That's nice. Super low hanging fruit. That
like if someone's listening and they're like, well, I'm not sure. What would you say is your ideal client?
Yeah. So I've got a few different ways that I'll work with people. And I'm always happy to talk to anybody. I mean, I get people who ask me that same question, and I always just try and answer like, look, if you have questions or whatever. And so, regardless of whether or not somebody is a good fit for being a full-time client with me, does not preclude anybody from reaching out and just asking for help. I'm always more than happy to spend time talking through questions or issues, and I don't charge for initial meetings or anything like that.
Nice.
For full-time clients, these are people that work with. It's exactly what it sounds like. They work with me every single year, pretty much nonstop. My two big and this has to do with my fee level, my minimum fee level. This is the point at which I say, well, I think I can add enough value that justifies the fee, but two independent criteria. But the first would be over $1 million in investable assets, and the second is 400,000 or more in gross income. Could be, if you're just a solopreneur, 400, and I don't know what the margins for home inspectors are like, so I don't know what that would yield you after tax. But it's typically like the W-2 equivalent of 400,000 in gross household income. Those are good fits for full-time clients. More and more, I'm doing limited engagements, so one-time financial plans, or even just hourly project-based work for people who might not be a good fit for full-time clients. But so more and more, the point is to say more and more, I'm going to be doing hourly work, limited projects, one-time financial plans for people who find value in that. And there are no minimums or anything for that. I'll be 100% completely transparent and honest about whether or not I think that what I'm capable of doing for you is worth my fee. I mean, I've met with multiple people where I say, look, I'm not a good fit for you right now. I could quote you this. I could charge you this. You'd probably be happy to pay me this, but I can already, you just need to do this, this, and this. And, it'll take us 10 minutes to get this set up on Fidelity or Charles Schwab or wherever you want. And I'll just help them do
That's
that.
awesome. So you can just kind of, that's great because different people are in different places.
Email. So Zach, my first name, Z-A-C-H as in Henry, Zach at ancapfinancial.com. That's A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, C as in cat, A as in Apple, P as in Peter, ancapfinancial.com. Is the best way to get a hold of me. And then my website, www.ancapfinancial.com. I've got a blog on there. There's a lot of unique, aspects about, we were talking about why I like the independence model. It gives me the freedom to design my vision, right? So, I mean, the way I charge fees is exceptionally unique within the industry. And just other things like my investment philosophy, my philosophy around financial planning, all of that is outlined pretty well there on the website. And I've got a very, I think it's very informational blog. I've got a blog about backdoor Roth IRA contributions, a blog about trust, a blog about charitable giving strategies, top 5 things you can do to save taxes as a business owner, 401ks as tax planning vehicles, all kinds of stuff in there where if you're interested, you can click on blog and then click on just the taxes one and see if anything piques your interest. But anyway, those 2 ways, email and then a website's a good spot for information.
That's awesome, man. Well, Zach, it's been really good, really great having you on the show. And I learned some new stuff today, and hopefully we can help people diversify and get a better strategy on planning their financial future, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Awesome. My pleasure, Matt. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks.